Hi everybody! Welcome to this complete tutorial in Revit architecture about an exercise to model a house. This video is separated in several chapters and it's intended for beginners that have a basic knowledge in the program. If this is the first time you are facing with Revit, I recommend you to watch first of all the tutorial for beginners that you can find in the card above or in the description of this video. Along with the lesson, I have provided support files for this exercise, which are exclusive for supporters in my Patreon page. The files are Revit projects and PDF files from the different chapters. So, are you ready? Let's start the lesson. Okay, this is the Revit home screen. Now we have to start a new project. For that, we have to click on New, and in this window we have to choose a template. As you can see, there are several loaded in this list, and it may be a bit different from yours, depending on the options you chose in the installation menu. Anyway, if you are not happy with these options, you can always browse, and you can find much more templates here, which are organized by language. For example, this is the English folder, and there are templates both for metrical and imperial units. Okay, here I'm not going to choose one of these templates, so I close the window and select here the architectural template and click on OK. Now, this is the main screen of our Revit project. I have the workspace in the middle and at the sides the properties and the project browser. Probably in your version, you have the properties and project browser at the left side, as it's usually the way it comes by default. If you are happy with that, just leave it how it is. But for example, in my case, I prefer to move the project browser to the right because I have a large screen in my computer. The working area is still wide enough and I have also big panels. Now, one important tip: if you cannot see the properties or the project browser, click with the right button and make sure they are activated. In the next step, we are going to check out the units of this project. I'm going to type UN and this window opens. The units are grouped by discipline. And on the Common tab displays the general units, or probably the most used ones. If you look at the parameters, you can see that at this moment we have the length in millimeters, area in square meters, angle in degrees, the distance in centimeters, and so on. Now let's keep how it is. I'm not going to change anything and click on OK. Before starting drawing this exercise, I want to introduce to you the project browser. This is the place where we can access the different parts of this current project. And to have a better idea, I'm going to open a sample file, click on File, then go to Open, and find the option at the bottom of this list. I'm going to choose this one, RAC Basic Sample Project. Open it. And you can see this is very complete, even they call it basic. So, by default, it opened the tab A001 title sheet. This is actually one of the sheets that we prepare for printing. Then we have different kind of views here. For example, floor plans. Let's open this level 1. Next, we have a floor above, level 2. Below that section, there are 3D views, for example a kitchen. This is an aspect of the solar analysis. Or we can also have a general 3D view. Below we can see the elevations, and then also other type of views that we usually have in our projects. Sections, detail views, or even renderings. Other important feature are also the schedules or quantities tables that we can easily create them here as this is a BIM software. So I'm going to close all the tabs of the sample project and keep the first one level 0, the file we are doing this exercise. In this next section, we are going to start drawing the proper house. And the first thing we will do in this exercise is drawing the walls, both exterior and interior. Now let's start working in this level 0 view, the ground floor. And to add walls in the project, go to the Architecture tab and find this Wall Architecture icon. Click there. As you can imagine, it's very easy to just draw a wall in the project. Just click for the start point and then click again for the finish point, and here you have a wall. Now, of course, there are several things to edit here. The wall type, materials, the length of the wall, among many others. But that's fine. Let's go through this step by step. Now, the first thing we need is to choose the wall type. I'm going to click on this icon and you can see this list with the current types that are loaded in this project. The exterior walls are on the top of the list. Due to that, let's go for this one. Then click on Edit Type. And because I'm going to do changes here, and as this is a default wall, I think it's better to not lose it. I'm going to duplicate this type, so I create a new one with a name that suits me better. For example, exterior wall 350 mm, which is actually the current width. Click on OK. Next, I can edit the width if I want. But not here. It doesn't work. To edit the width, we have to go to this button instead on Structure and edit the thickness of each layer separately. For now, let's keep everything how it is, but let's start being familiar with the wall components. This current wall type has a finish face with 50 mm of thickness. Then there is a thermal air layer, and the proper structure, made from metal, measures 200 mm. Then it's also possible to change the material of each layer. There is a big list that you can choose from. You can see that there is a big list here, but this is something I'm going to skip because I think we will not need it in this early stage of this tutorial. So, I'm going to start drawing the exterior walls using the floor plan level 0, which is this one, the ground floor. Select the type we have created. This one, the exterior wall 350 mm. And look that a temporary tab opened on the ribbon, which is specifically for placing walls. On the Draw panel, we need to choose one of the methods available. By default, we make the walls using the Line tool. It's the most common one. But of course, in some specific situations, we may need other ways, like arcs, drawing the walls in a circle format, an ellipse, even polygons, etc. In our situation, let's go with the Line tool, and then below we have the options bar in green color. To start, let's keep everything how it is except the location line, which is set by default as a wall center line. Instead, we have to use the finish face, which is set by default as exterior. Now I'm going to click to start drawing the wall. Then move to the right horizontally and type the distance of 1200 to 100 mm. It is the same as 12 meters and 20 centimeters. After pressing enter, we can draw another wall, this time a vertical one, and make sure you can see this label called vertical and extension. To set the dimension, there are two ways. Type the value with the keyboard, or click when this temporary dimension line matches the value that you want. For example, if I wanted 5 meters, I could click exactly at this moment. And don't worry, because unlike AutoCAD, in Revit the length is exactly the value showing there and not something approximate. Another thing, pay attention to what the dimension is actually measuring. And in this case it's correct because our location line is on the inner side of the walls. Now this is 8.5 meters and let's go forward. To draw the next horizontal line, I'm going to drag to the left, and this time I can find this intersection point. As this wall is the same as the first one, I click there, and finally I can connect the last wall to my origin. If I click exactly in this endpoint, we will close this loop. And now we have the first skeleton of this house. Now, before starting with the internal walls, I want to introduce to you how snaps work on Revit. And I'm going to start with the length dimension increments, which is the way I insert the length by only dragging the pointer. And they depend on the current zoom of the window. Let's have this different example. I zoom out and you can see that now the dimension increments every 1 meter. For example, now this line measures exactly 5 meters. Then let's continue. I zoom in a little bit more, and at this moment the values changed in a smaller range, this time in intervals of 0.1 between each measurement. If you still zoom a bit more, now the values are even more closely to each other. They are only snapping every 0.02 meters. So all these settings are editable. On the Manage tab, we have to find this icon Snaps. In this window, the section above is exactly what I was talking before, the dimension snaps. In length dimension snap increments, it indicates the ranges that I'm using. The first value is when I am at a minimum zoom. The pointer snaps every 1 meter. Then, at a certain moment, it snaps only every 0.1 meters, and so on. Back in our project, as the unit here is millimeters, the increments are 1000, 100, 20 and 5. I'm going to change the last one to 10, which is 1 centimeter. Although you can delete it and keep only 3 stages, because probably we are not going to use so small values. On the panel below, we can edit the object snaps. Those are the points we want to snap the elements that we are modeling. Currently, we have activated all of them that you can see here. Endpoints, midpoints, nearest, tangents, or centers. Let's skip all of them for now and click on OK to close the window. Then, if I want to insert another wall, I can start exactly from the midpoint of the wall on the screen. This corner showing as an endpoint, or even the endpoints of the lines that are dividing each layer. That's why we have to be careful. This is important. When we are in a large zoom, it's a bit hard to notice if we pick up the correct point. Basically, when you are not sure, always zoom in your drawing. You avoid clicking on the wrong place, and sometimes you don't notice it right away, especially if you are new to Revit. Now in the next section, we are going to learn how to set levels in Revit. Their purpose is to indicate the position of each story in a project, and we can make a floor plan for each level. There are 4 elevations loaded: East elevation, North elevation, South elevation and West elevation. They are indicated in the floor plan by this symbol, the circle with a kind of an arrow. At this moment the symbol is a 12 mm circle, but I can change it to a different one here. There is this 10 mm ones, and then in the project browser the elevations are grouped by type. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo this. And now, if I click in one of the symbols and press delete, I can see a warning says the elevation will be deleted. It automatically disappears from the project browser. Okay, let's go back again. And now I'm going to open a west elevation. I double click here. This rectangle is actually the projection of the walls we've already drawn in this project, our exterior walls. To make the things easier, I prefer to have these notations outside from the drawing area. For that, I'm going to click on level 1, find this grip, click and hold it, and drag to the left side. As you can see, all the levels, in this case I have only 2, extend together. Then I go to the right side and I repeat the process for this grip and leave it there. The next step, I'm going to rename each level according with my preference. For example, I'm going to type for this 0 ground floor. Would you like to rename the corresponding views? Yes, and I tick here to not show this message again. You can see it was renamed also in the project browser. Next, I'm going to do the same for the level 1. I type 1 first floor and press enter. Now, when I select one of the levels, temporary distances show in the screen. Here I can see the distance from the level below up to the selected level and from the selected level to the top of the walls, in this case. To move the level height, I click and hold the object and drag it to where I want. The ground floor, I want it at the reference height of 0 meters, and the first floor, it's currently at 3.4 meters, and I click on the dimension length to change it to 2.8 meters, 2800 millimeters. Now, I need to add a second level in this project. At the Architecture tab, this one. Then I place the pointer next to the level symbol and move slowly up, and you can see this temporary dimension from the first floor appearing. This time I'm going to type again 2800, so both floors will have the same height. To place the other end of the level, I can find this vertical tracking at the end of the other levels. Click now. Now I'm going to select the exterior wall, and as you can see, its height is 8000 meters. Why? Actually, I didn't change the height by default. Because if you look at the options bar when placing a wall at the first time, you can see the wall will measure 8000 millimeters and is unconnected. And that means that it does not depend on the position of any level. Now, let's say I'm going to draw a new wall, but this time I change this option to first floor. Let's make the wall at this side. Let's place the wall, for example here. I'm going to open a west elevation. And you can see the new wall shows at the left of the main building. And the height is just 2800 millimeters. Let's select the wall. And you can see at the properties, the top constraint is now first floor, what I defined before. So that's the place where you need to look at. Now I press delete to erase the wall because I don't need it anymore. And actually what I want is to select all the others, but I recommend you to do it from the floor plan. Here you can open a selection area and you make sure that you are selecting all the walls. Now I go to top constraint, change it to this time level 2. And now it shows the value of 5600 and I cannot edit it from the unconnected height. So in this situation, now we have the exterior walls up to the roof level. That's the new name I want for the level 2. So, a great advantage about using top constraints in walls is that later, if I decide to change the position of the levels, the wall's height are automatically readjusted. That's all in this video. Please feel free to visit my page on Patreon, where you can support this channel if you're happy, of course, and there you can also get access to the exercise files. I would really appreciate that, even of course, I'm already grateful that you find these videos useful for you. So, thank you very much for watching, see you next time!